This episode is brought to you by our friends at Bloomerang. Looking to deepen donor relationships and maximize fundraising impact? On a journey to align purpose with profit, you need the right tools. Discover Bloomerang, the complete donor, volunteer, and fundraising management solution. Rated as the industry's friendliest, Bloomerang helps nonprofits deliver a better giving experience and create sustainable, thriving organizations. This intuitive platform tracks engagement and provides powerful insights so you can focus on driving your mission forward. Join the thousands of small and mid-sized nonprofits who are already thriving with Bloomerang. Visit bloomerang.co to elevate your fundraising today. Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Welcome, Kendra Koch. You are the founder of Divergently, and I've been watching you on LinkedIn and all the things. So we're going to dig into that. First, take a moment and introduce yourself to our listeners and what you're working on.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I'm Kendra, as you said. I'm working on Divergently. It's a community platform for late diagnosed neurodivergent women. A lot of women just don't know that they have ADHD or autism or other forms of neurodivergency until adulthood. So we're trying to get them connected with all of the resources they need, but also each other, because mentorship and friendship and all of that is already hard in adulthood. But when you're like re-navigating how your brain works and what your needs are, it's even harder. So we're working to solve that.
Amazing. And I want to bring our listeners in to a moment, which I'm just going to describe as a meet cute. I think you and I had a meet cute, which is usually reserved for, in the movies, for a romance. But I want to bring our listeners in on how we met, which is we were at what I would call like a really big event. We were at like a women's luncheon or dinner or something. It was like a really big event. And I didn't know when I signed up for it, I was invited to it, that it was going to be, it was just one of those the big circle tables. And it was just very, yeah. And so I go to this event. I thought I would know people. I didn't know people. I only knew one person who was basically one of the hosts. So, I was really stepping into my best extroverted energy. And then throughout the event, it was just like extrovert moments and women were passing around the mic and everyone's so bold. And it was really wonderful, but it felt hard. And so when it was time to leave, the event was over, I was leaving and you and I were waiting at the elevator. And I feel like we just had a collective, like a knowing of like, oh, you too, that was a lot. Right. And then we just headed off and you told me about what you were working on and I was just immediately like, oh my gosh, I need to know her. So that's my version of how we met.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. It was like a very extroverted event for sure and high energy. And I think we were talking about our cozy clothes that we were looking forward to going back to.
Yeah. You were ringing a few bells because this was probably a year ago and you were talking about your work and I was like, oh, I just read this book about deeply feeling people. And I just read this. And it was like, I was on my path to being like, oh, I think it's me. It's not just, I was reading about ADHD and reading about other kind of neurodiversities for looking at one of my children. And then I was like, oh, it's me. It's the mirror, right? That's me. That describes me a lot. And so it was really, really cool now to watch you build Divergently. And yeah, it's so exciting and so needed because I think so many women just go their whole lives thinking like, oh, here's me. I think I just doodle on the side of class. I think I'm just not that interested in this. I think I'm just really, really perceptive and really, really forgettable in these ways. Yeah, you're nodding along.
Resonates. Yeah.
So let's dig in a little bit. So you originally came from Silicon Valley, and what I've watched you kind of take is your skill set there working for a lot of startups and really like kind of bring us in a bit of what you saw working with so many startups, working with so many founders in that area, because it's such a like robust area for startups and fundraising and community building. What were some of the learnings you saw there?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. I think I got into startups accidentally. Like I was a early childhood educator. I was doing nutrition education. I was working with like a nonprofit school, trying to like bring healthier food into school systems. And I was recruited by a startup to bring some of that education into the company. And what I got hooked on is that sometimes with technology or with like startups, or when you have a lot of funding, which is like harder when you're a nonprofit school, you can do like more a little bit faster. And so I really enjoyed like having some resources to try and do some of the things that felt really hard for me to do before, just because we were so under-resourced. And then I was able to like take what I was learning in startups and apply that also to like the social impact space. So every startup I've worked in has been in the social impact space, whether it's like health related, or right now I'm working mostly on mental health, but I've worked in like sustainability and lots of like family, like kind of family facing consumer companies that just like trying to make life easier for people. And I think what I saw as like some differences that I've really taken away of like can be applicable no matter what kind of like world you're in is that community building works, marketing works, and relationship building works. And it doesn't matter if you're in like a tech company or in a nonprofit school, like those things work. And so, I think like they're all tied together. And on the other side of it, like one thing I noticed that startups didn't always do well is like maintain those relationships, maintain that community driven growth. It's like, oh, we'll do it at the beginning because we have no budget, but now we have budget. So let's just spend money on ads. And I think like that's a huge fail because you've really lost what made like what you were building super special.
Yeah.
And so now I try to like keep both of those things in mind. Okay, we can, if we get more resourcing, we can grow, but like, let's not forget why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down in my notes, like, I think there is a difference between how nonprofits and for-profits report back to their investors and community members. So whether it's, VC investors or any sort of investors, like, and community members, I think there's a difference there. And sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. What is a good way to report back? Because you are talking about, what I love about startups is they've got this big, bold mission, and they get there typically faster than nonprofits. They get there faster because there's a lot of money behind it, right? But then in that accelerated journey, right, you just kind of hit it. What is a better way to report back to investors, people who've been supporting you along the way?
Yeah, I think it depends on the investor. Like in a startup, the investor's main like goal is to make more money. So like that's what the metrics need to point back to. We're growing, we're making more money, we're reducing costs. Like it's really a financial story that you're telling. And I think sometimes in nonprofits or like the impact space, the investors are a little bit more aligned with your mission or the impact you're making. And so it's still a number story you're telling, but it's more around the impact. So how much impact are we measuring? How quickly are we doing that? How efficiently are we doing that? And it's actually the same thing. It's like one responds more to the numbers and one responds more to like kind of the heart. So like if we're building something that has heart and is also financially sound, you're building something that will last, like that's sustainable, that can grow, that you won't burn out, your team won't burn out, like your investors won't burn out because they'll feel like they're coming along with you and that like their money is doing something. I think that's one thing investors want to know, like, is my money going somewhere useful? Is it making an impact? And you can tell that in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And donors want to know that too. Is my money going somewhere useful? Is it making an impact? And I think sometimes nonprofits don't go directly to that question, right? Or they shy away to that question because the answer to that question is sort of not yet, right? It's like we seek to solve this big, bold problem and we're not there yet. And I think that there's an audaciousness, there's a tenacity, there's a relentlessness in the startup world. Have you noticed that with the founders that you hung out with, and you yourself as a founder now, like twice founder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that mindset. If you're looking to double your fundraising results this year without doubling your workload, then I have a special invite for you. I'm hosting a brand new free webinar on October 23rd called Double Your Next Fundraiser, Not Your Workload, a bold approach to breaking revenue plateaus. In this free session, I'm sharing the exact strategies that have helped nonprofits like yours raise thousands of extra dollars and attract hundreds of new donors and build a movement of passionate advocates, all without burning out. Make sure you go to the link in the notes or go to splendidcourses.com/live to save your spot.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have some of that, because otherwise it's very hard to maintain all of the things that go wrong, all of the things that you think you could do and you can't do, all of the no's, all of the things that are yeses, but then end up being like a big mess because some part of it you didn't plan for or didn't predict was going to happen. There's just so much out of your control that I think you do need to have a little bit of a healthy, I think even you said it, like a healthy delusion. And I don't want to call it delusion, but I feel like a belief that there is a way.
Sometimes I call it relentless optimism, relentless belief. And it doesn't even have to be belief in yourself. If you can have, because that can be a struggle for people, belief in your mission, like belief in your product or your purpose or your service. Like if you can be just relentless, like I do lean on Sarah Blakely just many, many times, of all the people who are like, this is a terrible idea. Why would you cut the feet off of pantyhose? Dumb. No, hate it. I'm not going to manufacture this. Door slam, door slam, door slam. And she was like, relentless. And for her, I think she had that natural confidence to not make it about her when people said, this is a terrible idea. No, it wasn't like, you're bad, Sarah. They were like, oh, her thought was somewhere along the way of, they don't get it, on to the next. And I want to borrow that tenacity in the nonprofit sector. I really, really do. And you have to have it because you are here building Divergently. So talk to us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is just getting comfortable with those no's. Like it's a practice. It's not, some people just naturally have it and they just do not care. And I think most people who go into like social impact spaces, they do care. And so I'm not expecting anybody who's like building something out of their heart, like to not care. That doesn't really line up for me. So if you're that really caring person, I think you already said it, like you have to not make it about yourself. It is about the impact. And it's like, okay, I got a no here. If I stop with this no, what happens? You know, it's just like looking at the knock-on effect of quitting or of like giving in or whatever. And I also like to reframe it as like, thank you for your no. Now I know that this is not a good fit. And I'd rather know now than find out later when I've already invested time and money into this. So it's almost like building that no into a gratitude practice of, thank you, you're helping me get more aligned. Thank you, you're helping me get more aligned. You're getting me closer to the yes. That's the right yes. So, you know, like not every yes is a good yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes you, take the no. Be glad you got it.
That's so smart. And sometimes too, the person who is the no could be the connector, the through line to the person. Oh, it's not really a fit for us. Maybe it's a fit for somebody they know, right? And I think when we take the no's too heavy, we run out. We run out of the room. We get in the car. We're done. Never to see or hear from again. Versus like, what's here for me? And I love that gratitude practice, and just being open and curious to like, what learning is there here?
Yeah. And I think I've also had a lot of no's, like just in my past, and I'll have more, I'm sure, in the future, of no, but, and the no, but is like not right now because you're not ready. But when you get ready, like come back, you know, and sometimes the no is a signal that you haven't done all the work you need to do. And that can be super helpful too. It's not always a no with a hard line. It's just like, not right now.
Okay. I love this. So I agree, because I do think in fundraising, many, many, many no's are actually just a no, not right now, a no, I'm not clear on what you're doing, a no, I need more information or more time. So I don't know why, but my brain immediately just went to like, so for us, sometimes we have these like donor pitch lists, or what I will call like my warm or VIP donors and prospects. So do you have that right now of not necessarily funders, or maybe funders, or people who were like, ooh, catch me up in 6 months? Like, how are you organizing that? How are you organizing your brain on your like leads, prospects, whatever we want to call them, potential partners?
Yeah, that's a super good question. And I think it's so important and it's really overlooked. Like when I hear people talking about fundraising, it's kind of like block off 2 weeks and like spam people with emails. And that's so not the way to do it. Like you have to look at it as a long-term thing. And also, investors often, especially in the startup space, like they have a thesis, they know what they're going to invest in, they're very specific. And there's also different stages that companies are at when they will invest. So if you start building the relationship with them early, you know, and you get to like a series A or a series B and you need funding and that's what they do, like they're going to be much more likely to write those checks because they already know who you are. They've been kind of following your journey. They see you can do it. But to like get back to how to organize it, okay, I'm not the best at that, to be honest, but I will tell you like the best practices that I should also follow. I'm not going to like claim that I do this great. I think it's first like you kind of need like 2 tracks, which is one where you can use LinkedIn or whatever, wherever like your funders live, like online or wherever it is. You have a channel there where you're connected with them and they can see it, but you don't know if they always see it, but you just want to consistently post. And for me, I do it on LinkedIn. And what you want to be doing is kind of like telling the story of your impact, telling the story of your growth, telling the story of like how you think about what you're doing. And that helps the investor kind of passively get to know you. And that increases the chance that you'll have somebody reach out. Like last week, I just got a DM on Instagram of all places from an investor asking me for a call. And like, I don't know why he wants to have a call, but he's checking out my stuff online. And so, yeah, I'll take that call and see. And that would have never happened if I'm not like posting about the journey and all of that. So there's that where you collect people and you update them passively. And then there's the more active outreach, which can be like as simple as a spreadsheet, a Google Doc, a Notion, whatever tool you like to use or whatever tools you have in your organization. And you just write down like the name of the donor, their content, you know, like the super basic stuff. You could even ask ChatGPT to make one for you and it will like spit out a template really quick. But I think the information that's often not captured there is like context around when they're a good person to reach out to. And so it's almost like getting to know them, having a relationship with them, even if it's sort of like a parasocial relationship where you just know about them from your research. But you want to be able to go to them with something that you know you can connect on. And I always think of every meeting is not to get the check. The meeting is to get the next meeting until you get the check. So yeah, so it's just like the same as writing. Like, and when you're writing to like raise funds or whatever, or a pitch deck or an email trying to get somebody to buy your service, the sentence is just the only goal of the sentence is to get you to read the next sentence until you buy. So it's just like, you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself to get that check with every single meeting or call.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a, I'm like, we're pulling that one out for the podcast page. Okay. That's so good. Okay. A couple of things I just noted while you were speaking that you do really well, and you do it on Instagram and definitely LinkedIn, but you are giving your followers, your subscribers, like a good behind the scenes on what you're building. And I've noticed sometimes there can be some hesitancy around that because it's not done yet, right? It's not there yet. Like, you're so wonderful at saying, join the wait list. Here's behind the scenes. I just had a meeting with an investor. Here's how it went. Here's what I'm building. And you're repeating your mission. You're talking about your vision, what's to come. And you're giving people the raw, real behind the scenes in a way that people are really, really connected to you. And I think that's something that we can all learn from and do more of, is like, even if your program, service, product hasn't launched yet, you could be doing this. And in fact, you should be doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It is really hard to do. It feels super vulnerable.
Yep.
And it feels like, well, what if I say like we did this and it doesn't feel perfect? Or I also do feel like there is a little bit more pressure on women or people in social impact to do more of this, because it's sort of like the expectation. Like, if you're building a SaaS tool, nobody really cares. But I think like if you're building something that's mission driven and people can't feel that you are indeed driven by that mission, I think it doesn't always land right for people. So when I first started doing it, I was all over the place. I wasn't clear on like what I was trying to say. I definitely felt like you're supposed to post your whole personal life and you need to like show yourself with your kids. And like, I just really didn't want to do any of that. And I tried it and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I realized, actually, like, no, you don't need to do that. That's all distraction. You can still show the behind the scenes, but keep it focused on like the goal or the mission. And yeah, I talk about my personal journey, but I'm not like talking about 90% of my day, which is my personal life. It's just like the things that relate to the audience. So it's like, it's actually not about me at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the mental switch that helped me do it, which is like, I'm writing about me, but it's not about me. It's about the reader and the customer and the investors and any partners we want to bring on board, showing them like what we can do for them and telling their stories, highlighting their stories, relaying what we've learned, I think when you take yourself out of it, everything gets so much easier.
It is this nuance of the vessel or the vehicle. And so some people do want to give all the behind the scenes and the personal life and and some people are more protective, right? And don't want to, me. And some people feel like, oh, well, I'm just talking about myself all the time. And you just gave us a really good nuance there. It's like, not exactly. That's not exactly what you're doing. And then the last thing I want to underscore is the beginning. You're like, in the beginning, there was this, it was that. The only way to figure out how to do it is through you guys. You have to start kind of messy. You got to go start MVP. And then you're like, oh, that wasn't quite it. That quite doesn't feel right. And then you iterate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's like we see final finished products or people who have been doing it a long time and we think that's what it needs to look like. But first of all, like 90% of stuff you put online is gone the next day, like it's buried in the feed. No one's going to look at it. And everybody's trying to figure out their life. They're not so focused on you. And when you do something that lands, like that resonates, they will remember that more than they'll remember like the stuff that wasn't great. And so you do kind of just have to do it. And I think another mental shift that I made, which is like every piece of content that you put out gives you feedback, and like it's a relationship, right? It's like a conversation. So if I say something and the audience gives me nothing back, then I know what I said is not either relevant to them or interesting to them, or I didn't say it in a way that they felt like they could respond. So I need to change something. And the other piece is if they do respond, now you have information about what they care about, how they think about what you said, and all of that can go back into your marketing. And we even use that for product development. Like we like last year when we met, our product was like totally different. And because we had so many conversations with people online, people emailing me, people responding to content, we completely pivoted what we were doing because we learned that we were not actually meeting their need with what we first developed. And so like social listening is like what it's called in marketing. And I think it's so important, like to everything you're doing.
It's like your people are leaving you breadcrumbs. So like, look at the breadcrumbs. Yeah. And it's like for every nonprofit listening, it's like, these are the email replies. These are the comments on your Facebook posts. These are the text messages you get. These are the board member random thoughts, musings. Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, it can all shape your marketing. So like if you're sending out like anything for trying to raise funds or whatever, and you just feel like it's not as effective, like going back to that stuff and using the exact same language people are using, mirroring their language, like that can make your messaging so much stronger and help you have clarity. And I think clarity is always if there's a lack of clarity, people will just do nothing because
that's right.
They can't make a decision. So
yes. Okay. I want to talk more about Divergently. I want to talk about the community building that you've been doing and the vision. Like, let's get in a little bit to like what's coming and the community around it and all the things.
Yeah. So we're starting with the community, and the idea there is to have a safe space where women can go to talk about like a diagnosis for ADHD, autism, whatever it is. Because not everybody has like a safe space to talk about it. It's still highly stigmatized. And women, I feel like, are particularly good at problem solving, but sometimes when you're trying to do it alone, it's like very overwhelming. And you go online and you're like searching Google, or a lot of people I hear like get their information from TikTok, and like that makes me scared. And so I'm like, okay, if the best we have is TikTok, then we're doing something wrong. So what we're trying to do is like put the best resources in one place and give them to women who are trying to navigate this very complicated time in their life and like refiguring out their identity. There's so much there, grief, relief. There's just so much emotion there that people are wading through. Giving them the tools and resources that we've like pre-vetted. It's evidence-based, like where any product that we recommend is reviewed by like a team of experts. And we believe in everything we recommend. It's not just like, please follow my page so I can get sponsorships. Like, we're not doing that. And the other thing we're trying to do is make content more accessible, because if you have ADHD or another neurodivergency, like sometimes reading is hard. Sometimes you can only listen to content, and while you're like folding laundry, it's the only way you can fold laundry or whatever it is. So we're also trying to bring education into people's day-to-day lives, so you don't have to like sit down and do this course and like go back to school, because that's already been traumatic for a lot of people.
It's so funny to be in your 40s and being like, I thought that was just a quirk. Do you know what I mean? Of just like, I couldn't wait to be done with school. I couldn't wait. I was fine. It was fine. I couldn't wait for like that's what that was, or why I like to have movement while I'm also taking in information is a big one I've learned about myself. So if I can walk or be in the shower or be brushing my hair, like I'll have these like drop-in moments. Driving is a great one for me. And I'm like, aren't all people just that way? It's like, no. And then the challenge is how to cultivate those moments more, where I'm like, I need to get what I would call like in the zone, or I need to like, it feels like there's a lot of chatter going on and I need to just like, and so it sounds like Divergently is a place where it's like, okay, here's how we can get some habits in place. Here's how we can support you in some of those ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And we like, it won't, when we launch, we're doing a very soft launch and like kind of doing some of this customer listening we've been talking about to figure out what else we need to build, but we will be using technology and like other things to help connect people to like groups, like support groups, to therapists, to all the resources that are normally like too expensive, take too much time. And so everybody wants to live better and like be more efficient and all those things. And there's so many barriers to it. And I think our mission is driven by like, how many of those barriers can we clear? And how many of them can we help people clear in their own day-to-day lives? So it's just like, what parts of that chatter are from your environment? Like, let's get those out. And then you can focus on what's in your mind.
Yeah, totally. So as we move into talking a bit more about the relationship building, I would imagine now you sort of have your foundational like evangelists. They're super excited. They're ready for it. And then now you're in the space of like layering onto those, building more, bringing more members in on the wait list. What does the next, 6 to 12 months look like? And how do we keep excitement going?
That's like the real question there.
Okay.
Especially for neurodivergent individuals who are like driven by novelty. So it's like,
I don't know what you mean.
I can't promise I have all the answers. I think we're still figuring that out, but I do think like it's just giving people what they need when they need it and nothing more. And then trusting that they will outgrow that. And then we give them what they need next. So it's like, when you're trying to figure out, should I get a diagnosis? Like that's what we'll focus on. And then maybe you've already had a diagnosis, but you went through like this period where you were really happy and it helped you feel better. And now you're like going through grief. So we'll help walk you through the grief. And then we'll have like education and things where you can come at your own pace and learn. And then, one really beautiful thing about community is that it fosters connection. And I think connection is what so many people need right now. And that in its own way is like a way to keep engagement, keep people in the platform, keep people in your community. So just like fostering that. And the early like evangelists are really great at kind of fueling that and keeping it going. And so it's just, we have like a customer advisory board basically, and they are a group of customers that give us feedback, but also really care about our mission and help with some of that community. Just like, it's not even community building, but like the community engagement, making sure people are talking and connecting and like feel safe. And we're keeping it like a highly moderated space too. So you don't leave because you've just been like assaulted by the internet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the thing that particularly women, especially women with children, is the connection. Like, and particularly women who are neurodiverse, who maybe are like, adult friendships feel hard, or it just feels like there's not enough time in the day and all the things like, and everybody listening, like your people are hungry for connection, and connection can be an in-person event. Connection can also be a safe space online. Connection can be all sorts of things. And so just really thinking about that intentionally of like how, and that's something I've been thinking a lot about with our clients. Is like, how do you create a two-way conversation and not a one-way conversation where we're talking, the brand is talking at the people, right?
Yes. Yeah. That I see a lot. And that is like a lot of what my role was in the startups that I worked in Silicon Valley, which was like converting highly technical or like product-based kind of communication that is talking at the customer into more of a conversation. And when it's online, it is a little bit hard, but I think empathy is really the tool that you use, because you need to understand like, what is my customer thinking and where are they right now? Like, I've seen so many companies that are marketing to parents, and they don't realize that the mom is reading this at maybe 2 a.m. while breastfeeding, or like standing in line for the pediatrician's office, like you need to know the context of their lives to like understand how to reach them effectively and then make it very easy for them to respond. Like it's again clearing those barriers to communication, which is like lack of clarity is a really big barrier. Like bad tech is a really big barrier. Like if your user experience is clunky or people don't know where to click or your forms are broken, like that will kill the connection right away. And like people don't have the patience to come back and figure it out.
Yep.
So just like make it easy and also get in front of people a lot, but don't burn them out. Like don't send like 3 emails a day, you know, but don't send them only once a month either.
Yeah.
You know, there's a balance and you have to experiment a little to find it, but people want to connect. I think that it's, you know, that's not the issue we're solving for. It's more just like, how do you get the clutter out of the way so that people can do it?
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And to take a moment to think about like, where is my ideal person? Is she in line? Is she like in carpool? What is she up to? Is she, you know, or like thinking about like, I think the space of like menopause has really had a moment. Is she up at 4 a.m.? One of my clients was just saying, she's like, I'm going through insomnia, 2 weeks of menopause, like thinking about her, you know, so that then that informs what you say, how you say it, how often you say it, the resources. It does start to, again, leave yourself breadcrumbs of like, what do your emails look like? What does your social look like? What does your pitch to an investor or donor look like when you have those like context pieces? And I guess for folks who are listening, who are like, I don't know, Kendra, I don't know. Their first step is to get on the phone and starting to get to know their people. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Get to know people. Yeah. And they will tell you, and you have to pay attention, you know, like that's the other thing too, is they might not explicitly say like, I'm standing in line. You have to use a little bit of creative thinking, but like pay attention to also what's not being said and what people are saying online. There's a lot of great tools. You could go to Reddit and just like read forums or go to Facebook groups and read forums. There's so much learning there, so much about, where people are at. And then again, like you can just put content out there and see how people respond and start with something so easy. Like our welcome email just says, reply, hi, Kendra. That's all that we ask them to do, because if you're asking for something big and difficult, like they probably just won't
they
do it.
They just met you. Yeah. Let's actually think about that for a second. So if we sign up for your wait list, that's what it says. And that's doing two things really well. One, by hitting reply, you're getting people to tell their email system, this is a good email, like, right? Put it primary inbox her. And two, if you would ask them a big, bold question like, when were you first diagnosed? Or what are you struggling with right now? Right? They're maybe not ready for that because they're like, we're just getting to know each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, a lot of people do send that email, hi, Kendra. And I reply back with just like,
yep.
Hi, thank you so much for responding. Now we're more certain you'll get our emails and like just reinforce like that the action that they took has the effect that you want it to have. And so that they know like, okay, this is working. Mm-hmm. Somebody replied, like a human is on the other end. I was just thinking
the humanity behind just that simple exchange, the connection point just around that simple exchange is so good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we ask every guest on the podcast to share a thought that they like to think on purpose. This can be an affirmation, a mantra, just something that's guiding you forward. Would you share yours with our listeners?
Yeah, my dad always said, go as far as you can see, and then you can see further. And I think there's like some self-help guy that says that, and I'm not sure where the original quote comes from.
I don't know who it is, but I love it.
Yeah, it helps me a lot because it's so easy to get ahead of yourself and be like, I need to be on the top of that mountain. And it's like, no, first you need to put on your hiking shoes.
Just start walking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that was a really good one. That's going to be Post-it note worthy to go.
I love that.
Screen. Yes. All right. Wonderful. Tell everyone where we can connect with you and get on the wait list if Divergently is right for them.
Yeah. So we're at Join Divergently on most social channels. We're most active on Threads and Instagram. LinkedIn, you can find me at Kendra Koch. And our website is joindivergently.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for today. This was great.
Thank you.
Hey, high achiever. I know your sights are set on ambitious, world-changing goals. In the Purpose and Profit Club group coaching program, you can get the support, motivation, and strategy to accelerate your impact. I like to say it's where the inner work meets big impact and big funding. Go to splendidcourses.com/waitlist and you will be first to be notified when we open up doors, and you'll get special bonuses when you join our waitlist. See you inside.